Hello and welcome to 2.2 Recaps. Today we're recapping a 2020 film titled The Banker in Washington, D.C. In 1965, Bernard is warned to be careful because authorities want to make an example out of him. He prepares to testify before a committee. His story begins in Texas in 1939. As a child, Bernard shines shoes outside a bank, listening to customers discuss finances and real estate investing. After they leave, he writes everything down in his notebook. One day he stands by the bank window to overhear a meeting, but a police officer spots him and pulls him away. A chase ensues and Bernard escapes. The officer warns him that his father will be informed. That night, Bernard's father scolds him for spying on white people, explaining that black men have been hanged for less. He acknowledges Bernard's intelligence but warns that white men will never allow him to get rich. Nevertheless, Bernard is determined and vows to become wealthy. In Los Angeles in 1954, an older Bernard is now married to Eunice, and they have a son. While visiting Eunice's family, her uncle mentions that an aircraft company is hiring black men. Bernard declines the opportunity, explaining that he plans to make money through real estate. He dreams of owning property and earning income from rent. Since they are currently renting a small shed from the uncle, the man becomes angry and accuses Bernard of not wanting to work. After dinner, Eunice defends her husband, calling him a genius and assuring her uncle that things will improve. Later, she joins Bernard in the shed and he promises to get them out of there soon. The next day, Bernard drives Eunice's cousin Tony to work. Tony's friend Matt admires Bernard's car and assumes he's wealthy. Tony tells him that Bernard owns several buildings. Bernard then visits a number of properties in a white neighborhood, evaluating their condition and prices. Later, he tells Eunice he found the perfect building, but buying it would leave no funds for renovations. Needing a co-investor, Eunice introduces Bernard to Joe, her former boss. Joe is easygoing and jokes constantly, which makes Bernard reluctant to take him seriously. They leave without sharing the business idea. On their way out, they see the governor visiting Joe, revealing Joe's important connections. Still unconvinced, Bernard meets with Patrick, the owner of a property he wants to buy. Bernard proposes buying the house if Patrick lends him $10,000 for renovations. Patrick refuses, citing faulty calculations. Bernard quickly corrects them, impressing Patrick, but he still won't lend the money. Before leaving, Bernard notices a calendar from Reed at Mid-City Bank. Bernard visits the bank and asks for Reed, but the secretary lies and says he's unavailable. Bernard can clearly see Reed inside and realizes he's being dismissed because of his race. Determined, Bernard waits outside the bank. When Reed leaves, Bernard approaches and pitches a business idea that benefits both Reed and Patrick. That night, Bernard tells Eunice he didn't get the loan. Just then, Patrick calls, having learned Bernard used his name to speak to Reed. Patrick asks whether Bernard thinks that was proper business conduct. Bernard admits it wasn't, and Patrick, impressed by his honesty, offers to be his guarantor. He tells Bernard to visit the bank the next morning to collect the loan. Bernard and Eunice celebrate at a club. At the club, Joe teases Bernard again, making Bernard dislike him even more. The next day, Bernard and Tony begin renovations. A tenant complains about a black man working in a white neighborhood. Bernard explains he owns the building, but the woman doesn't believe him. Soon Matt arrives and Bernard asks if he minds working for a black man. Matt replies that the only color he cares about is money green. The trio works hard on renovations. 2 police officers respond to the tenant's complaint, but Bernard shows ownership papers and they leave. After renovations, Bernard and his family move in. The tenant sees them and moves out the next morning. Other black families soon move in, and the building is fully rented within days. Patrick is impressed and proposes a business partnership. Bernard will pick properties while Patrick serves as the public face to avoid discrimination. They shake hands and agree on a 50-50 split. In the following weeks, their business flourishes. Tony and Matt help with renovations and Eunice selects the decor. One day, Bernard surprises Eunice by revealing a large house he's bought for their family. Later, Patrick is found dead in his bed. At the funeral, Patrick's wife announces she's ending the partnership and offers Bernard 25% of the proceeds. Bernard protests. He was promised 50%, but his name isn't on any legal documents. The lawyer tells him he'll need a witness to prove the deal. Bernard visits Reed at the bank, but Reed refuses to see him. On his way out, Bernard sees a sign that sparks a new idea. He suggests to Joe that they buy the building that houses the bank so that no bank renting space there can deny them loans. Joe likes the idea but says no one will sell to black men. So they recruit Matt to be the face of the business. Matt is hesitant, but after talking to a waitress named Susie who is impressed by his new career, he changes his mind. Joe trains Matt on how to talk to wealthy clients. They all go to the golf course at 6 a.m. to learn the game. They're joined by Donald, Joe's banker, who agrees to lend them $2 million. Bernard promises to negotiate a lower price for the building. Bernard also teaches Joe financial calculations, though math is not Matt's strength. Over the next few weeks, Matt practices and gains confidence. He gets his first suit, learns social etiquette from Eunice, and eventually impresses the team with his skills. The building they want is owned by Charles, who plays at an exclusive country club. Joe arranges for Matt to join as a guest, pretending to be his driver. Matt impresses Charles and secures a meeting. He trains for a week and answers all of Charles's questions flawlessly. Charles agrees to sell the building for $1.56 million. The group celebrates and redecorates the office. Their relationship with bankers grows and they secure more loans, buying many properties in upscale white neighborhoods. This financial success allows Matt to marry Susie. The trio becomes the most successful real estate group in the state. In 1963, Bernard visits his father in Texas. His father is proud, but the town's segregation is still visible. Bernard returns to LA and tells Joe he wants to buy a bank in Texas. Joe protests that they don't know how to run a bank, especially in a racist state. Bernard argues that black people are underserved, and they could use Matt again as the front. Joe reluctantly agrees. With Donald's help, Matt buys the bank. The former owner and his son Robert retain 20% interest. Bernard quietly spreads the word among the black community that the bank is now supportive. Soon, many black businesses begin to thrive. After 3 months, Robert becomes suspicious of the volume of loans. He follows Matt and sees him with Bernard. Later, Susie complains about Texas and Matt's lack of partnership in the bank. Robert confronts the group, warning them that the U.S. Treasury plans an inspection based on anonymous complaints. Matt suggests buying a smaller bank to spread the loans, making the numbers less suspicious. He demands to be made a partner or he'll quit. Joe and Bernard reluctantly agree. Matt buys the small bank, and Eunice poses as a cleaning lady to keep an eye on operations. Racist graffiti appears on their property. Meanwhile, white clients threaten to withdraw funds, believing the bank is run by a civil rights group. Matt asks Bernard for help when a federal examiner arrives, but Bernard can't attend the meeting as a black man. Eunice reminds Bernard that she disguised herself to help them. Shamed, Bernard pretends to be a cleaner and tries to help from outside the office. The agent closes the door and Matt panics as errors are discovered. He rushes to the bathroom for help. Bernard finds major accounting mistakes. Joe is shocked Donald missed them, but Matt confesses he used a different lawyer recommended by Robert. Joe and Bernard realize Robert set them up. Bernard later tells Eunice they must sell 27 bad loans and cover losses of $300,000. He and Joe refuse to help Matt, saying it was his idea and risk. The next morning, Donald informs them his bank bought all Matt's loans. Joe and Bernard storm into Matt's office. Matt claims it's temporary but they warn him it's fraud. Treasury agents arrive, revoke the bank's license and fire Matt. The FBI arrests Joe and Bernard. Later, their lawyer says state charges were dropped, but federal ones remain. A senator may use their case to push reforms. Meanwhile, Matt is offered a deal: testify against his friends to avoid prison. Matt appears in court and claims he was manipulated by Joe and Bernard. Bernard is offered immunity if he admits to exploiting lax banking laws. If not, he risks jail. After discussing it with Eunice, Bernard decides to testify honestly. In court, he criticizes the gap between America's ideals and its treatment of black citizens. He explains how denying loans blocks access to the American dream. In the end, the government seizes Bernard's and Joe's assets, and both serve 3 years in federal prison. Eunice keeps one house in her name. Robert buys the bank for a fraction of its value. When Joe and Bernard are released, Eunice is surprised to see them laughing. They reveal that Matt explained he would face 50 years in prison if he didn't betray them. They agreed to take the fall, and Matt bought them 2 houses in the Bahamas before the government could seize the money. Thanks to their testimonies, Congress passed the Fair Housing Act in 1968, making it illegal to deny housing based on race, religion, or gender. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more recaps like this. Thanks for watching.